Yeah, I think it's like obviously you'd want to win a conference championship. That's always fun, but pretty cool to think, it's the first time in program history we've ever had an at-large bid. And I think it just speaks to the body of work and the season that we've had to go 17-2 and to still be ranked 7th in the country from an RPI standpoint and get that seed. I mean, just over the moon and just excited about what we've been able to put together for the course of a whole season and not just a one-off on a weekend.
And how much does that mean for the program, just national relevancy and respect for being able to get an at-large bid?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to when you're at a place like Liberty, it's not a Power 5, it's not the ACC or the Big Ten. You have to have everything go right and make sure you don't give them a reason to keep you out of it because we've been on the other side of that so many times. But I think the body of work that you're able to put together, I don't really think anybody in the country could, deny beating UNC, beating UVA, beating Harvard, beating all these teams. And I think it's just awesome. We just left no doubt in people's minds.
After that game against Old Dominion in the Big East tournament, what are the biggest growing points you think your team can take from that game and apply to your upcoming matchup?
Yeah, I think, one of the first things that we said, we're always trying to evaluate the process, not the outcome, right? Sports are crazy. We've had games this year where we did not execute what we needed to do and we won. Okay, so right, the margin of winning and losing in sport is so much smaller than anybody would think. So I honestly came out of that game, I thought we played incredibly. I've watched back the film, I stand by what I said after the game. Like, yes, there's little things that you're going to fine tune to get 1 or 2% better, but that happens even after you win. And at the end of the day, it's like if we can evaluate what we were trying to do, did we execute that? Did we follow the game plan? Did we give it 100% of our effort? And if we did that, that's where you just got to trust in something. There's something bigger going on, and certainly I want to win every single game, but I was really excited about what we were able to do on Sunday.
You talked about some of the big wins your team's had already this season. How much do those wins and that schedule, the tough schedule you've played so far this year, kind of help you going into the NCAA tournament and also piggybacking on the last 2 years being in the tournament and winning some games there as well?
Yeah, I think overall this group has a lot of experience. We've lost in a semifinal. I think the seniors would have lost in the semifinals. We've been to a national championship. We've won 2 tournament championships. We've won 3 regular seasons. Last year we were 12-8. Had more downs than we had ups. And this year, obviously, winning a lot of games. So I think at this point, especially the group of people that have been here for a long time, they've seen everything, and that's what you need to see. And we've been talking a lot this season about exposure, and even in the games, right, winning a lot of games, they've been tight. In seasons past, we've put up more goals on offense, and this year our defense, I think, has been the hallmark of what we've been doing. So it's like you don't need to score 6 goals if you score 2 and they score 1, or you score 1 and they score 0. And you can just kind of look at statistically everything that's been happening from that standpoint, that we're definitely one of the best defensive teams in the country. And I think at the end of the day, when you go into the postseason, you're not going to win a game, Lord willing, 6-0. That's probably not going to happen. For many people, it's going to be tight. It's going to be 1-0 overtime, and that exposure we have faced from day 1 of this season. So I think that more than just the wins or anything, that gives me so much confidence because I know that we're battle tested and prepared for anything that anybody could throw at us at this point.
Did you purposely build your team that way then? Just through the process of recruiting and just constructing a roster, knowing, hey, offense in the postseason, it's going to be harder to come by. We need to have something that's going to give us a chance every day. From a defensive standpoint? To
be honest, not really. It was more just looking at, I wanted to build, and we wanted to build as a staff, a better way to defend that could shut down not just the 15 to 25s, but could shut down a Maryland, can shut down a UNC, can shut down a Duke. And it's not perfect, but it's a really good way of defending. And I think it's just also the makeup of each team, and then the structure that you're playing and how that impacts what you're able to do. But I think it's just really wanting to come out and find a better way to defend against the top teams in the country.
Knowing how unforgiving the postseason can be, right? You've had a great, tremendous regular season, but now the pressure's on. 1 loss and it's over with. How much do you preach to your team being locked in, dialed in, focus on executing each play?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the moment's as big as you want to make it. If that's all you're thinking about a week, oh, if we lose on Friday, it's over. Like, that's a reality for every single team. But I think it's about managing the 6 inches between your ears. How are you talking to yourself? How are you talking to your teammates? How are we talking coaches about what's going to happen on Friday? And so I don't really think that the message changes too tremendously much because, you know, the reality is nobody was thinking about this. But had you lost to Quinnipiac or had you lost to Georgetown, and you lose in the finals of the Big East, you might not be here. You know what I mean? So that pressure has been there all along. You know what I mean? Pressure, to me, I felt more pressure going throughout the regular season of, okay, you've lost one game. Everybody's coming at you. We know that we are going to get, especially in conference, everybody's best. Everybody wants to beat us. You know what I mean? So I think no matter what, it's the voice, it's what are you telling yourself about the narrative? And I want to run towards pressure on Friday. I can't wait for Friday. I can't wait for that moment. I hope that it's a tight game, you know, because I want that exposure. I want that adversity, you know. So if we win that game, we have another opportunity of, yep, that's another notch in our belt of we know what it takes and we have what it takes to win those tight games.
How familiar are you with Syracuse and their team, and what type of challenges do you think they'll present on Friday?
They're very good. So Lynn, their head coach, was at St. Joe's for a bunch of years. I know they're pretty beat up. I think they only have 15 fit field players. I think that, you know, goes to our advantage. I think the draw is incredible. Like, listen, at this point, you're going to have to go through the best to be the best, you know, to win a national championship or to be in a position to go to the Elite Eight or the Final Four. But when the bracket came out, to be honest, I cried because I'm like, this is exactly where we need to be. I would have taken anybody, but the fact we don't have to fly to Chicago and Northwestern and it's 2 hours and 15 minutes down the road, I think, you know, we need to take care of Friday, obviously, because if we don't win then, you can't get the opportunity to play on Sunday. So yeah, I was excited about the matchup, and, you know, they're obviously a very good team, but I think for us, they're stylistically, they're a fast-forward team. They're going to be aggressive. It's going to be a punch and counter-punch game, and that's where we thrive. I don't want to play ODU style. Like, they're going to sit back. They're going to play so conservatively, so defensively. They don't really open themselves up to give up much, and Syracuse is going to be quite the opposite of that, and that's you know, think about the games of UNC, Duke. We thrive against those teams that they're not going to be so concerned about what anybody's doing that they just defend for 60 minutes. They're going to, you know what I mean, try to score goals, and we're pretty good on the counter.
And talking about just this season, you've had some hallmark wins, some great moments. What makes this group special just compared to other groups you've coached? What makes their character unique?
Yeah, so I don't know. It is really cool to think about what I've been telling the girls this whole year. This is the most resilient group I have ever coached. You know, we can look back to Harvard. We were leading that entire game until the fourth quarter. They find a way to tie it up, send it to overtime, and we find a way to, you know what I mean, to still close the door. Duke, we obviously lost that game, but we were trailing until the fourth quarter. We're down 1-0. We find a way to tie it up and send it to overtime. And it just seems to be, even on Sunday against ODU, we pulled the goalie for 9 minutes. I mean, people think I'm crazy for pulling the goalie at 9 minutes, but you know, that's a reality. We're not going to hold anything back, and we're going to continue to be aggressive. And I just think that they took that in stride. I mean, kids are on their face. Bethany, Lexi, just diving to, like, we gave up 2 corners during that time, and just doing whatever it takes to keep the ball out of there. So I just think that with this group, they are resilient. I don't think that there's a more resilient group that I've ever coached, for sure.
I had one question come in virtually. How was your non-conference schedule, which featured games against other ACC teams, prepared you to scout Syracuse and what they're about?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful just because, you know, as we're looking through Scout, we have, and just as a fan, you know, I like to watch ACC Network, like to watch those games as they happen live. But, right, to watch UNC against Syracuse is helpful because I know how UNC plays. I know what their tendencies are, and then I can see how that applies against a different opponent in a Syracuse, you know, or Duke or whoever it is like that. So I think it's a big advantage. We always have, you know, a good chunk of ACC teams on our schedule every single year. So it's a conference that we're very, very familiar and comfortable with playing, whether it's the spring or the fall.
And as a fan and a student of the game, Nikki, the overall bracket, compare it to the last couple of years. Is it unique in a way, or this is typically what the committee looks like with the brackets? How is this one? Is this one any different, or is it typical?
So I think what stands out to me is, you know, ever since the COVID Super Seniors come out, like, I think that any team could win this tournament. Like, I look at it, I think that there's more parity this year than there has been in the last 5. You know, as good as UNC and Northwestern and those guys are, they've been nicked this year, you know, and pushed and challenged. And I think that that just speaks to when you have fifth-year seniors coming back in your program, it's an equalizer. You know, it's an equalizer for us to go into those games because we've been able to retain some of our top kids. So I think I just, you know, look at the bracket and just think, man, there's a lot of opportunity for a lot more teams than there might typically be in other years.